8 coaches have been fired this year in the NFL. So there might be 8 new football teams looking for a new head coach. I'm including the Las Vegas Raiders on, in this topic because even though they made the playoffs, it's not clear they're going to keep their interim head coach, Rick Bisaccia, when the year comes to an end. So I'm going to say, hey, maybe the Raiders are one of the teams that are in the running for maybe hiring a new head coach. So let's start by going through the pros and cons of each team. If I was a potential head coach, where would I want to go? We'll start with Houston. They got Davis Mills with the Texans. He's a young quarterback. He looked great last year. Arguably the best rookie quarterback in the league last year, him or Mac Jones. And he actually played Bill Belichick better than any rookie quarterback I have ever seen play against the Patriots defense in the history of the Bill Belichick era. They also have Deshaun Watson's rights, which means that maybe if things work out the right way, you could make a trade and leverage Deshaun Watson for a couple draft picks and use them to build around your young quarterback, Davis Mills. Other than that, though, there's not a lot of talent in Houston. And I really, after them firing David Culley after 1 year, the only person who was willing to work with them last year during the offseason, for them to turn their back on a guy who I thought did a respectable, good job for them, makes me I already didn't trust the ownership in Houston, but it confirmed my suspicion that, yeah, the ownership in Houston is are people you just don't want to work with. And the management there, yeah, I wouldn't trust them with, a 10-foot pole, or whatever the saying is. I wouldn't trust them at all. I'm good. I don't want to work with them. And so despite a quarterback and maybe some draft capital, if they can get a trade for Deshaun Watson, I would be wary of the opportunity in Houston. How about the New York Giants? Big Blue. I believe they have a problem at quarterback. They have Daniel Jones, who is not a quarterback I believe in. However, they do have 2 top 10 picks, which means that they have the number 5 overall pick and the number 7 overall pick. They could make a trade for a quarterback like Russell Wilson or Deshaun Watson. They could leverage their picks for a star quarterback, which is a big deal. And if I'm a potential head coach, I go, what's the plan for those 2 picks? Because if I can get a top-tier quarterback, I'd feel way better about playing. Especially, hey, Russ Wilson in New York? I'm like, yeah, sign me up. I'll work with that guy. The Denver Broncos are a team with, they also do not have a quarterback, but they have a lot of potential. They got a lot of talent there in Denver, especially at the receiving core. I mean, if you get a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers, oh my goodness, it's a really, really good opportunity there. They also have the number 9 overall pick. So despite no quarterback, they got a lot of talent. Denver's not horrible. Now, the Raiders have Derek Carr, a quarterback who, look, either Minnesota or Vegas are the 2 teams that are the best teams that do not have a head coach, or the best quarterbacks without a coach. Derek Carr is maybe the most underappreciated quarterback in the entire NFL. It blows my mind that people... Does anybody understand that Derek Carr took the Raiders this year to the NFL playoffs in a year where they lost their coach, had 2 starters cut, and really horrible stuff off the field? And by the way, there's not a lot of talent around him in Vegas. Like, Derek Carr is amazing, and people just don't appreciate him at all. It drives me nuts. So the fact that the Raiders have Derek Carr is a massive piece that would be very, very attractive if I was a potential head coach. The Minnesota Vikings have Kirk Cousins, a guy who I think that's a positive. He's not perfect, but I'm not going to argue that Kirk is one of the best quarterbacks in the entire NFL or anything, but he is certainly very underappreciated, and at times has been one of the only good things on a losing football team last year in Minnesota. They also appear to have patient ownership in Minnesota. They gave Mike Zimmer a long time before they let him go this year. They also have some good players on offense. They got Dalvin Cook at running back, Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, just to name a couple. In my opinion, though, a coach like Brian Flores should not go to Minnesota. Minnesota needs an offensive coach that can really get the most out of what they have. The strength in Minnesota on their roster is talent on offense, and they need someone on the offensive side of the football to be their head coach to get the most out of what they got going on offense in Minnesota. The Jacksonville Jaguars, they've got the number 1 overall pick in the upcoming 2022 NFL Draft. On top of that, they got the number 1 pick from last year, too. They got a starting quarterback, Trevor Lawrence, who I really like, and I thought showed a lot of promise in the final game of the year against Indy. And despite having a bad year, Trevor, I'm like, hey, if I'm a coach and I'm confident in my, what I can do, I'm like, I want to work with Trevor. I can help Trevor succeed. And he had a rocky year last year, but look at what went on in Jacksonville. They had Urban Meyer going off the rails. They had all kinds of stuff happening. But if I'm a coach with any kind of confidence, I'm like, I want to work with Trevor Lawrence, and I can work with him and make him and help him win games. The other benefit to Jacksonville is they have low expectations. The pressure is off. They haven't been good for a long time. It's a fan base that just wants something positive, and you're coming off of Urban Meyer. Like, I would compare this to, if you're Jordan Love, the backup quarterback of the Green Bay Packers, you got to follow up Aaron Rodgers. Do you understand how difficult it is to go after someone who's amazing? I did stand-up comedy a couple weeks ago, and thankfully, I went on stage after a bunch of people had bombed. And I'm like, I know I can go on and I can make this crowd laugh. They're hungry to laugh. The expectations are very, very low. It's the same with Jacksonville. Urban Meyer was a train wreck. All you got to do is be better than Urban Meyer. And you got some good young talent. You got Trevor Lawrence. You got a number one overall pick upcoming. Jacksonville would be a very, very attractive opportunity if I was a potential head coach. How about the Chicago Bears? They've got a young quarterback, Justin Fields, who is a guy that has a lot of talent. They've got some good players, too. Khalil Mack is the one that comes to mind immediately. However, they do not have a first-round pick in Chicago, and they have a fan base that is rough. They are, oh, man, I would be wary of working with them. How about the New York Giants? What am I saying? How about, I missed something. No, I didn't. We'll move on. How about the Miami Dolphins? The Miami Dolphins have a limited quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa, a guy who, in my opinion, needs a lot of help to win. He's going to need really good pieces around him and a coach that really works to his skill set. And he's never going to have a massive arm and be able to run around. He's always going to be a little bit limited physically. They also have a bad offensive line in Miami. They don't have a lot of talent outside of a couple of young players. They do have 3 stud second-year players going into next year: Jalen Phillips, Jalen Waddle, and Javon Holland. But overall, Miami's not that attractive of an opportunity, in my opinion. Now, if I had to rank the 8 teams that do not have a head coach right now permanently, which is the best opportunity to go be a head coach? From best to worst, I would wonder, who has a quarterback, who doesn't, who can get a quarterback that doesn't have a quarterback. Like the Giants don't have a quarterback, but they've got some trade capital they can move to go get a quarterback. Who has good ownership? Who has ownership that I trust and would want to work with? Houston is not one of those teams that I would want to work with. I know from an owner standpoint, I don't trust them at all. And which team has talent that I would want to work with? I look at the Vikings and go, oh boy. So my number one team, the best opportunity to go be a head coach, is actually the Minnesota Vikings, because they've got a good quarterback, Kirk Cousins, who gets a lot of hate. He's not perfect. He's not a top 5 quarterback in the NFL, nothing like that. But he's very competent. And with a good head coach, I think he could do a lot of good stuff. He needs an offensive-minded head coach. And if anything, Kirk is very underrated. They got good offensive weapons: Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson, Dalvin Cook, and patient ownership. They play in a dome. You have to play Green Bay twice a year, but they might lose Aaron Rodgers after this year. And then, hey, the division's up for grabs. So I'll play Chicago and Detroit twice a year if I'm Minnesota. I think Minnesota is the best opportunity for a potential head coach in the NFL. The number 2 best opportunity, the second best opportunity, is the Jacksonville Jaguars. They got a quarterback? Yes, Trevor Lawrence. They got some talented young players. They've got low expectations from their fan base and their ownership. They just want something good to happen. And if you can give them something good, they will be satisfied. They got the number 1 overall pick coming up. I think the Jaguars are a massively great opportunity in the NFL. The third best opportunity is the Las Vegas Raiders. I would want to work with Derek Carr. He has never been in a great situation. He's never had a great team around him. He just made the playoffs this year in a year where they lost their head coach and a couple players during the season. He is so much better than people realize, and I would want to give him a good team for him to play on. He's a great leader. He's talented. I would look at Derek Carr if I'm a potential head coach, and I'm like, dude, Derek, let's build something together. Derek Carr is the most attractive thing the Raiders have going for them, and for some reason, casual NFL fans just do not appreciate what he does. Now, the 4th and 5th best opportunities in the NFL are 2 teams that do not have a quarterback, which, hey, normally I would say avoid that. However, the Denver Broncos, there's a lot of talent there. They do have the number 9 overall pick, so they could draft a quarterback. Maybe they trade for Aaron Rodgers, but All they need in Denver is a quarterback. They've got a lot of really good players in Denver. The GM called them a sleeping giant, and I tend to agree with them. They just need to figure out the quarterback position, and if they're a quarterback away from winning, you got the number 9 overall pick. You got maybe a trade opportunity for Aaron Rodgers. Who knows? If Aaron really wants out and wants to win, I'm like, Aaron, hey, come play and come pull a Peyton Manning, come work with me. I think Denver's a really good opportunity. They got to figure out the quarterback, and they got to, I think, hire an offensive-minded head coach. Number 5, the New York Giants are the 5th best opportunity to be a head coach in the NFL. They do not have a quarterback. They don't have a ton of talent. They're not hopeless, but they're not great by any means. But they've got 2 top 10 picks, which means that, in my opinion, they can very easily go from a team that does not have a quarterback to a team that, you can leverage those, the number 5, the number 7 overall pick to get a quarterback like Russ Wilson or Deshaun Watson. And a lot of people, I said I wouldn't want to coach in Chicago. The fan base there is rough. I actually would really like to coach in New York. I think their fan base there's a lot of passion. There is some anger there. They're not going to be easy on you. They're very demanding. But I actually really love the Giants fan base. I would love to work in New York. If I ever had to do local radio, sign me up. I'll do New York. I'll take the passion. I'll take the anger because they just want to win. And if you're a head coach doing your best and if you take accountability and I don't know, man, I would not be afraid of Giants fans. I think they are a fan base that has passion, which is not a bad thing. And I would, rather than hide away from them and say, instead of looking at your fan base as something that is against you, the thing is, if you give them what they want, if you win and you're working hard, they're also ride or die. Like, Giants fans are very loyal. And I don't know. I see the passion in a fan base that really wants to win, and I would not be deterred by the fan base in New York at all. In fact, if anything, I'd be encouraged and say, yeah, I'm up for the challenge, and I want to be a part of that, what's going on in New York. Number 6, the Houston Texans. Davis Mills, arguably, I've said it multiple times in this topic, arguably the best quarterback that was a rookie last year. Him or Mac Jones. Mac Jones probably had better numbers, but Mac Jones had a playoff roster around him. Davis Mills had arguably the worst roster in the NFL. Davis Mills played Bill Belichick's defense better than any rookie quarterback I've ever seen. That includes Justin Herbert. That includes all kinds of quarterbacks. It's amazing what he did. And on top of having a starting quarterback, Davis Mills, who I think is a franchise quarterback, you also might be able to trade Deshaun Watson for some draft picks where you could potentially, like if you trade Deshaun Watson to New York and get the number 5 and number 7 overall pick, you can continue to build around Davis Mills, your young quarterback. What's the big problem in Houston, though? I said it over and over again. Their ownership is a group that Cal McNair, I don't trust him. I don't trust any of the ownership in New York or New York. Sorry, excuse me. I don't trust the ownership in Houston, and I wouldn't want to work with them. I think they're terrible. I think they are. I don't trust them. I think they are. They fired David Culley, a coach who did a respectable job for them after 1 year when he was the only person who was in their corner willing to work with them. So I would not want the job in Houston, but they do have a quarterback. They do got some potential trade opportunities that they could build around their young quarterback. It's not a terrible opportunity. Here are the 2 worst opportunities, in my opinion, in the NFL, number 7 and number 8. Number 7, the Chicago Bears are the 7th worst, 7th best maybe. They're far from the top of the best opportunities in the NFL to be a head coach. You do have Justin Fields, the Bears' young quarterback, however. Justin Fields or Davis Mills? Who played better last year? Davis Mills was a better quarterback all around than Justin Fields was last year. Davis Mills was more polished. He made better decisions. Justin Fields, the quarterback in Chicago, has a lot of talent. Dude can run, has a big arm, but he's still developing. And who's a better quarterback? Davis Mills right now. But if you're a confident head coach and you're like, look, I can take the skill set of Justin Fields and teach him how to be a better quarterback, like, the sky's the limit there. Now, unfortunately, the Bears do not have a first-round pick, and in my opinion, they've got a toxic fan base who second-guesses everything and has, just no understanding of football. It just drives me nuts. The Bears fan base is one that I would not, you could look at it as a challenge to like, oh, yeah, I'll take on what it is, but I think actually they go beyond passion and into the word toxic, and I would not want to really be the head coach in Chicago. You got a quarterback who is maybe not good, Justin Fields. You got no first-round pick, and you've got a fan base that is going to be very impatient and overly critical of every little thing you do. And I'm like, I'm out. I'm good. I don't need that. I would rather, there's so many other opportunities that are better. I don't need to deal with Chicago Bears fans. I'm totally good. Number 8, the very worst opportunity to be a head coach in the NFL right now is the Miami Dolphins. They've got a bad offensive line. They've got no first-round pick. They've got Tua at quarterback. I love Tua as a human being, but he's very limited. He needs a lot of help. He needs a good offensive line, which I don't know how they're going to find a good offensive line with no first-round pick, not a lot of draft capital, not a lot of trade value going on there. How are you going to win in Miami? I don't know, because you need a coach who wants Tua, who's committed to Tua, and somehow finds a way to build an offense around Tua, even though they've got not a lot of value and pieces they can use to build. So I'm concerned about Miami. I think they're by far the worst opportunity to be a head coach in the NFL, and it's going to be hard to win in Miami for sure, in my opinion.